Butterfly Lady here to talk about container gardening. My favorite way to create habitat for butterflies is by using containers. There's many reasons why I like to use containers. Here in North Carolina, where I am now, the soil is clay soil. It's very, very difficult to plant in the soil. You have to mend it or create a raised bed. So containers is easier. Also, containers, if you have a small area, small yard, containers are perfect for balconies or apartments. And you can just cluster them together and make as many containers as you want with your butterfly plants. I made some butterfly habitats over here. In front, I have a habitat for black swallowtails because I put the host plant for the black swallowtail. If you want butterflies, you do need host plants. So I used fennel, dill, and parsley for the host plant for the caterpillars, and then I put some nectar plants for the adult butterflies. I did the same thing with this container behind it for monarchs. I have two different types of milkweed, and then I have flowers for the adult butterflies. And I will set these, I are out on this little patio that I'm on, which gets lots of sun. And that's another thing you have to realize, that you do need lots of sun to attract butterflies. That's another reason I like containers, because you can move them around because throughout the year sometimes the sun changes. I actually ran out of containers and couldn't find any that I really liked at the big box stores anywhere. It's that time of year where they haven't put them out yet, I guess, because of the coronavirus that's going around. So I went to the dollar store and I found these little containers. They were $1. And I thought, oh, okay. So I bought several of them because I have some plants that I wanted to plant separately. I didn't want to cluster them in a big container. One reason is because I'm not quite ready to plant them in the dirt. It's going to be a while, and I wanted it. I went crazy at the nursery, bought way too many plants, and which I'm sure many of you do. So I bought these things to put some of my plants in. This is a Liatris Blazing Star. It's going to get quite tall. I'm not going to put it in a container. I'm going to put it in the ground, but I'm not ready to put it in the ground. One thing I heard is it might freeze this weekend, and so I don't want to put it in the ground before it's going to freeze. This is a late winter storm coming upon us. So I put it in this container. I can bring it inside if it freezes or cover it up. And then when I'm ready, I can plant it in the ground. I also have these little cosmos that I put in the container. I love cosmos, and butterflies love cosmos, and they will get quite tall, and cosmos do really well in containers. A couple of years ago, I was in Florida and planted cosmos in a container, and even in Florida with the heat, they did really well. And then here I have Budalia, our butterfly bush, and I put that. I like to put the Budalias in containers, and this is another reason I like containers, because you can also control the size of your plant. Now, Budalia or butterfly bush is kind of a controversial plant. A lot of people say don't plant it. There are varieties, because it is invasive. There are varieties that they've come out with lately that are not so invasive, that are small, that do well in the containers like this. And if you're an old timer like me, it's just hard to get rid of your butterfly bush because they do so well in attracting so many different species of butterflies. So I'm going to talk to you how I make the container using these little things. They came with holes marked on them, but not punched in them. And you want to make sure that your containers always have holes. So I'm going to take this utility knife, and I'm just going to make a hole, punch a hole in. You could use a nail and a hammer, which I don't have, so I'm just using this utility knife. I made 3 holes, very easy to do. You need the holes for drainage. Then I always put a coffee filter at the bottom of the pot. One reason is so that dirt will not fall through the holes, but also so that a little wood chip or a pebble or something won't clog up the holes and clog up your drainage. Then the next thing you need to do is you need to add something to give roots area to grow, to aerate them. You can purchase things like stones, things specifically for that, but stones are a little heavy, and that's another thing I like about containers. I like them to be lightweight, so that's why I like the plastic containers, because they are lightweight. Also, I understand plastic containers hold moisture better than your clay. I have a clay container right here, and it's lovely, but it's quite heavy, and I'm going to need help lifting this off the table. They also have fiberglass, beautiful fiberglass containers that also hold moisture really well and make beautiful, beautiful containers for flowers. Now I put the coffee filter in there, and now I'm going to put something in the bottom before I put the dirt in. I think 2 is enough. I'm going to add 2 soda cans, and you can tell I like Coke Zero. I put those in there because, again, it's lightweight, and I like to sometimes move my containers around, and if I put stones in there or something heavy, it makes it more difficult for me to transport the container. And now I'm ready to put in the dirt. For dirt, you can just, any kind of potting soil will do. I like to add peat moss and vermiculite or perlite to my soil, because the potting soil you buy is usually a little heavy. And especially in a small container like this, you don't need a real heavy soil. So I add about 50% of potting soil that I purchase, and you can buy expensive or cheap, it doesn't matter. And then I add about 80%, my mixture of 80% peat moss and 20% vermiculite or perlite. That's what I use for my seeds. So I have some left over, and I have mixed it in with my soil here. And that helps aerate the soil and make it light. So I'm going to go ahead, let me put my gloves on here. It's always good to garden with gloves. I like to use my hands, but it's so much easier on your hands if you use gloves. It protects your hands from sharp objects, from bug bites and whatnot, and also helps keep your hands clean. So I'm going to add the dirt. I'll fill it about halfway. Maybe a little, actually a little bit more than halfway, because I've got a small plant here. What I'm going to put in here is a lantana. I'm going to put it by itself. This lantana is my absolute favorite lantana. It's called Miss Huff. It is the most wonderful lantana because it is a perennial, and most lantanas are not perennials. They are maybe in Florida or California where it's warm, or Texas. But this is a perennial here in North Carolina and maybe a little bit further north. It kind of dies back, but it comes back. And it will get to be about 4 feet tall maybe, and will bush out, and it will bloom all summer and all fall. It will be covered with butterflies. And then you cut it back or let it be, and it will come back the next spring. This is just a small one that I found at the garden center. It's the only one I found, so because I like it so much, I went ahead and bought it. And I'm going to plant it in this container and then probably repot it when it goes bigger. And you saw that I just kind of squoze the pot to get it out. Is that such a word? And it has a really good root system. I don't really need to do anything, and it's going to fall apart. So I'm going to put it in here, and then I'm going to add my dirt around it. Use my hands to pat it down. Now this is really kind of falling apart, which kind of concerns me. So I'm going to really have to mound up the dirt to hold it together. It's a very hardy plant though, so it should do okay. And I may need to add a little bit more dirt, but I'm going to kind of push down so it stays mounded up there. and that will get big and bushy. And then when it gets to a certain size, I'll either put it in another container or I'll put it directly into the ground. And I think that's it for what I wanted to talk about containers today. As you can see, I love to garden using containers. It is a lot of fun. I do also want to just mention that not so much with the lantana, but with the Buddavia, with the butterfly bush, one thing that you want to do to help keep it to grow bushy and to get big and to keep blooming is once these blooms die, you want to pinch them off. And you want to keep doing that until the fall. And that will help keep it blooming, help it grow. And then in the fall, then you can cut it back. And it is a perennial. Now, cosmos are an annual, they will die back. But there, you could even, I had found the cosmos that already planted, but 2 years ago when I was in Florida, I just put seeds in the pot and let them come up, and they came up. And I had butterflies on them all summer long. So I wish all of you a wonderful, wonderful spring and a wonderful summer with lots of butterflies. Be sure to tune in to butterflylady.com and follow my blog. I'll be teaching much more about how to garden and how to attract butterflies to your garden. Have a wonderful day.